Good evening to all my fellow viewers from the United Kingdom and around the world, and welcome to another edition of the Aaron's Ales channel. A completely different version of my channel this evening. As a change to doing a perfect draft demonstrative pour and review, I have decided for once to do another one of those subjects, and that is inspired by doing the blindfolded taste testing I done in my place of work back in the summer, but with a difference this time being I am doing a taste test without being blindfolded, but this time even better, a demonstrative pour including a review of a taste test out of these 5 different ranges of Tenby Harbwr Brewery ales, bottled conditioned ales. So, without further ado, let's start off on our first one for the evening. As we are now nearing to winter time now, I think it would be appropriate to start off on one of their stout / porters, and this is one of my favourites to drink from this brewery at this time of the year, and that is the Lanosa Chocolate Orange Stout. So this is a 500ml bottle at 5% in strength. I had these bottles, by the way, as a gift for my 31st birthday back in August from my father. So tonight I'm going to do a taste test on them. And I've also had along the way with the gift pack a lovely brand new Tenby Harbwr Brewery glass with a widget included at the bottom. I had one that I had for my birthday from last year or the year before here already, and I also had this lovely beauty, a Tenby, can you see it very clearly here, a Tenby Harbwr Brewery merchandise again, their bottle opener. So bottle open, first one. Look at that lovely smoke coming out of that. So I think, as this is a porter, I think it would be appropriate for me to use one of my Guinness glasses. I'm going to use this old-fashioned Guinness glass from the 20th century. So here we are. Tilt your glass at a 45-degree angle. Slowly to start, as you'd always do, like on a draft beer, and then as it gradually gets to nearing the harp, you can pour it a bit faster. Look at that head. A nice 1-finger head. Not quite a full pint, mind you, as this is only a 500ml bottle, but a very good head retention there. So let's get the aroma. I can smell vanilla. Definitely some coffee. Slightly caramel. Slight bits of caramel. And a slight bit of chocolate there. No sign of any orange in smell. Before I taste this though, it is always important that you cleanse your palate before you start. This also includes when you move on to your next beverage. You have the option of either having a glass of water, very handy, or a cream cracker, but it has to be plain though. Two excellent remedies to cleanse your palate, but for me, I'm just going to go for the easier way, and that's a glass of water. Tap. There we go. And now comes the important part, the taste test. So, cheers. Iechyd da, as we say in Wales. I've got to say, out of all the porters and stouts I've tried from different breweries in the past, this one from Tenby Harbwr Brewery, considering it to be a chocolate orange style of stout, is very good. Very, very good and very tasty. I can't taste too much orange in this, but I can slightly taste some slight bits of orange. But what I'm mostly getting on my taste buds out of this port stout, pardon me, is definitely vanilla, definitely coffee, slight hints of it, and chocolate malts. I'm getting all that nice backbone and flavour to this. I'm now going to come to the part, before I move on to my next beverage out of this taste testing range, of what the perfect food pairing would go with this stout. As stout, including porter, is a dessert style of beverage, in my opinion, this is more, from what I've tasted in this stout, this is more than just a dessert style of beverage to pair it with a dessert. This will pair very nicely with one savoury dish too. And in my opinion, and I have two. The first one, if you're like my father and myself, from time to time on a weekend, where we tuck into my father's favourite starter whenever we go out for a meal, which is pate. If you were to drink this at home, like I am now, the two perfect pates to accompany this would be Tesco's finest version of duck à l'orange pate, but also, in my opinion, as it's quite rich in taste, you don't want anything too rich. This would also go nicely, I think, in my opinion, savoury wise and pate wise, Ardennais pate, which is basically a chicken liver and mushroom style of pate. The perfect dessert on the subject of desserts, to accompany this stout. Now, you don't want anything overpowering or rich to pair with this, as there is plenty of richness already in this stout. I think the perfect dessert dish to pair with this stout, in my opinion, would be a nice plain vanilla and white chocolate cheesecake. Not too sweet, not too overly rich, and not too overpowering. I'm going to give this stout a 8 out of 10. This is an 8 out of 10 from me, Aaron Zales. So before I move on, another slurp of water. I'm now going to move on to the next beverage. The next one I'm going to go for now is one in which I think is the perfect one to drink at any time of the year, winter, autumn, spring, summer, and that is an amber ale. This is appropriate enough, I think, to drink in the autumn. And this is RFA Sir Galahad Tenby Harbwr Brewery Red Ale at 4.8%. So let's get this one open now with the same bottle opener. Not so much smoke out of this time. Once again, tilted glass, 45-degree angle. And slowly pour. And then tilted glass. Again, a nice 1 finger head, very good. And again, a 500ml bottle, not quite a full pint, but good enough. Let's get the aroma. Very malty. A slight hint of toffee overtones. And a slight bit of peach, I think. Now comes the taste test. Cheers, or as we say in Wales, iechyd da. Good health. In terms of my taste buds, what I'm getting out of this red ale from the same brewery, it's incredibly malty. Almost like the French IPA I had on my perfect draft back in the summer. Very similar. But it's got a wild berry fruit aftertaste to my taste buds, I think, in my opinion too. So it's slightly on the fruit, autumnal fruity side for a red ale at 4.8%. The perfect food pairing, I think, in my opinion, to go with this lovely red coloured ale, I think it would pair very nicely with something very lovely. This, I think, would go nicely with a nice cheese, potato and onion pie. A nice savoury dish, but also for those of you who are vegetarian or vegan, the perfect vegetarian vegan style dish to pair very nicely with this. That's the style of food you want. But also, let me give it a bit of a twist. This would also go nicely, in my opinion, with a nice, very hearty lamb cowl. Or for those of you who are vegetarian or vegan, to your preference, a vegetarian vegan style of cowl. With all the taste buds I'm getting out of this ale, this would certainly pair very nicely with that. I'm now going to come to the rating. This Sir Galahad Red Ale from Tenby Harbwr Brewery is going to get a rating of a 7 out of 10 from Aaron's Ales. So, once again now, very handy, glass of water or cream cracker of your choice. just to cleanse the palate. The next beverage, the third, number 3, I'm now going to go for is Caldy Lollipop IPA, which is 4.5%. So let's get this open. And pouring straight in. Again, tilt your glass to the 45-degree angle. Gradually pouring. I must say the head on this one this time is a little bit better. A nice one finger head again, this time with a better head retention this time, and a nice lovely orangey colour to it, but pale at the same time. Let's get the aroma. Slightly hoppy, but not too hoppy. I'm getting some Maris Otter out of this. And quite malty for an IPA. So, again, cheers. Iechyd da, good health. In terms of taste, what I'm getting out of this Caldy IPA from the same brewery, other than a slight bit of fruitiness to my taste buds, I can definitely detect and taste honey on my taste buds. There is certainly honey added into this, as over in Caldy Island, which is an island in Tenby, where all the monks originate from in West Wales. They make lovely honey on that island, although I've not been there myself. And what's even nicer down there, also, they make some nice chocolate and honey ice cream too in that area. So I can henceforward taste why I can taste honey in this ale. In terms of food pairings, I think for this ale, this would go very nicely, in my opinion, with some, nothing too overpowering, nothing too rich, but I think this would go very nicely with a combination of cockles and lava bread. This is perfect enough to go with a nice seafood dish, in my opinion. Although it's got a nice hint of darkness to the colour, I think it will blend very nicely with those dishes, cockles and lava bread. And a nice slice of baramenyn. For those of you who are not Welsh speakers, and for those of you who are watching this video from around the world, baramenyn is, in English, bread and butter in the Welsh language. So it's a Welsh language for bread and butter. Bara menyn. I'm now going to give this a rating. This gets a 5 out of 10 from me, a 5 out of 10 from Aaron's Ales. Not too bad, but quite nice. So, back on the water, or as we call it in Welsh, dŵr. To cleanse the palate. Or rather, as we say in Welsh, dŵr. Not as we call it. Pardon me. Right then, the next one I'm going to go for, number 4, is going to be, drum roll, North Star Amber Ale. And this is 4.2%. That's what I'm going to go for next, for number 4, the penultimate one. Here we go. Bottle open. And this time, I've got an actual Tenby Harbwr Brewery glass. Once again, glass at a 45-degree angle, pouring straight in. Just look at the lovely, lovely amber colour to this ale. No wonder why this is an amber ale with an excellent one finger head. Again, not quite a full pint, but hey ho, these are 500ml bottles, so it's not quite the same as a full pint. Let's get the aroma. Very malty. Hints of caramel. Hints of barley. And hints of Maris Otter. So, here we go. Cheers. Iechyd da, good health. I have got to say, what I'm getting out of my taste buds from this amber ale is definitely some biscuitiness, a slight hint of that. Quite sweet. It almost reminds me of the taste of custard creams, in my opinion, from what I'm tasting on my taste buds. Between that, and I can also taste a slight bit of fudginess to this ale. So it's given me an idea of what it tastes like. I'm getting a slight tan of fudginess out of this. You can taste a bit of fudge for this amber ale. So a slight bit of sweetness to my palate on this ale. And not too rich either. I'm now going to come to the part where I think what the perfect food pairings again would go with this lovely amber ale. I think, considering this being an amber ale, this would be perfect enough to pair nicely with a nice succulent surf and turf. Surf and turf meaning a ribeye steak and shrimp or king prawns added to that, and scampi. But also, this would also go very nicely with a nice flat iron steak. This goes very nicely with steak style of beef dishes. But at the same time, I think this would pair very nicely with beef medallions, fillet beef medallions. Very, very nice dishes to go with this ale, in my opinion. But it's got to be Welsh. But if you're in West Wales at all, which is where Tenby is based, including the brewery itself, go to the local butchers nearby, a West Wales style of butchers. It doesn't have to be in Tenby. It can be anywhere in the West Wales area. Get a nice West Wales style of steak to go with this, even if you're cooking it at your own home. But I think the perfect cooked steak to go with this ale would be a medium rare. Although I like my steak cooked rare, this amber ale, in my opinion, would blend very nicely with a medium rare cooked steak, as most chefs would recommend when you're eating it in any restaurant you go to. We now come to the part of the rating. This fifth and this, no, I do beg your pardon. We haven't gone to the fifth one yet. This fourth and penultimate ale, being an amber one, gets a 9 out of 10 from Aaron's Ales. A 9 out of 10. Excellent. Excellent. And finally, we now move on to the fifth and final ale. And this is a pale ale from the same brewery, and is one in which I've had the pleasure of drinking on cask in my local pub, the Ancient Britain, many years ago when they used to serve it there, and is one of my second favourite pints to have if I was to have it on cask in any West Wales pub I'd go to, including Tenby. Ladies and gentlemen, the fifth and final ale I am going to taste now is Tenby Harbwr Brewery's MV Enterprise. Let me turn it around. MV Enterprise Pale Ale. And this is a slightly lighter strength, not too strong, 4%. And because it's a pale ale, I've actually got from the actual brewery now a glass with a widget at the bottom, so there should be a bit of carbonation in this. So for the final time this evening, before I start, I totally forgot. Last time this evening, glass of water. To cleanse my palate. And now for the final time this evening, let's open this bottled ale. Again, 45-degree angle, or at an angle if you prefer to call it this way. Just look at that lovely, lovely head retention. Again, one finger. And such lovely, lovely glassware too. There's definitely slight little hints of carbonation. So the heads should stay a bit longer. Let's get the aroma. Slight hints of peach. Hoppy. Slightly malty. And the colour I'm getting in this ale is definitely pale. Not too fruity at all. For the final time this evening, cheers, iechyd da, good health. What I'm getting out of my taste buds in this fifth and final bottle conditioned ale this evening is a slight hint of maltiness. And I can also taste barley too. There is certainly some hints of barley. It almost reminds me, being as it's bottled conditioned, of Hawkston. It very much is very similar to a Hawkston in taste. And it's got a slight tan to it too on my taste buds. So if you were to compare this to the cask conditioned version and the bottled, I think to my taste the bottled conditioned version of this ale is not overly the best. I've seen better. But of course, if you prefer a bottled conditioned ale with a bit of, like I've just said now, in taste, go for it. As it's to your taste. If you prefer it that way, it's your choice. At the end of the day, but I'm just saying it in my words of opinion as an expert. I'm going to come to the fight for the final time this evening. I'm going to say what the perfect food pairings will be to pair with this ale. I think, in my opinion, this would pair very nicely with a nice Welsh style of beef curry, half and half. This would pair very nicely with a nice Welsh style of beef curry. But it's got to be Welsh in any Welsh style of bistro you go to, where you find. Or, if you were to drink this in your own home, this would also pair very nicely with the Welsh pantries ready-made meal version of a Welsh beef style of dragon curry. It would pair very nicely with that ready-made meal for one indeed. As from what I'm tasting in the aromas, it would go very, very nicely. Again, not too rich, not too overpowering, but the perfect one indeed to go blend very nicely with the slight little chunks of beef meat, along with any alternatives and veg that's added into the sauce. I'm going to give this my final rating for this ale. I am going to give this fifth and final bottle conditioned Envy Enterprise a 4 out of 10 from Aaron's Ales. So this is not the best I've had, I've got to admit, but it is okay. But to my preference, I prefer the cask conditioned version. Before I finish my video this evening, as well as bottled conditioned and cask conditioned ales served in pubs across Wales and United Kingdom, the brewery, as well as serving bottled ales, also serves, on the subject of mini kegs, 5 litre mini kegs. Unfortunately though, 5 litre mini kegs, you cannot use them in a perfect draft machine like I've got at home. However, you can use a different style of beer dispensing machine, but the style of beer dispensing machine you have to get has to include CO2 gas capsules. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the actual machine itself, but I know you can purchase this on Amazon. So if you're thinking of, if you've got your own beer dispensing machine of this type at home, and you're thinking of getting any of these ales in a 5 litre mini keg from the brewery, then a 5 litre mini keg is the only version you can get. But as I've mentioned, unfortunately, you cannot get them in the right litres for a perfect draft machine. You would have to get the 6 litre versions, which unfortunately Perfect Draft does not serve or sell. But who knows, maybe one day Perfect Draft may decide to do it on 6 litre kegs for their machines in the future. Thank you for watching this evening. Please tune in again to my next video soon. In my next video, I will be doing another, back on the subject of my Perfect Draft kegs. I will be this time doing a demonstrative pour and review on Lowenbrau. This time the ordinary version of Lowenbrau. As last year, I had already done the Oktoberfest version, but I have not come across to doing the ordinary version yet. So in my next demonstrative pour and review video of my Perfect Draft kegs, I will be doing Lowenbrau in my next video. As a matter of fact, on the subject of Perfect Draft beers, I have got at the moment the Oktoberfest version of Spaten 5.9% in my Perfect Draft machine, and is one that I reviewed last year, along with the Oktoberfest version of Lowenbrau München last year also. But I haven't done any demonstrative pours and reviews on those, only because I have in fact already done so last year. But as mentioned, in my next video, I will be doing my demonstrative pour and review on Ordinary Lowenbrow. Good night, goodbye, hwyl fawr, nos da. Thank you for watching. And enjoy your Thursday evening and whatever your plans are this evening and for the weekend.